will speak wisdom amongst them that are mature, so they can understand the objectivity of truth from the subjectivity of our sentimental attachments. I kept receiving testimonies up until today of some of the things God did in 2022. We had miracles, tangible miracles. We had testimonies of transformation. We have testimonies of circumstantial turnaround. But our major focus is for mighty men to rise, because legislators must be born. We need people who can go into parliament and defend God's interest. We need people who can go to the media and defend God's interest. We need people who can go to the academia and defend God's interest. And that is why I showed you yesterday the way Satan is working overnight. I gave you 3 cadres of demonic intelligence and demonic operation. Satan is working through policies, innovations, and trends. Everybody who is in the corridor of power, who is not fundamentally submitted to God, is manipulated by Satan. And when you see the policies being churned out from governmental parastatals, from economic corridors, you know that this thing is beyond the people walking. There is a spirit whispering to them. And we took time to look at it. If you look at the innovations today and how they are being used, you know Satan has an agenda. If you look at the trends today, you know Satan has an agenda. But what is happening? Where are those in church who are burdened to stand in positions of power to say no to demonic agenda? Where are those who don't just have bodies but have capacity to say no, and when they say no, their no has impact? This is why we are here tonight. I began by telling you yesterday that every legislator must have weapons, and I outlined 5 weapons of legislators. I said number 1 is wisdom. Anybody who does not have wisdom cannot reign in this life. And if you can't reign, you can't defend God's interest. Wisdom was speaking in Proverbs 8:15. He said, by me kings reign, princes decree justice. He said, nobles and all the rulers of the earth. That means anybody who is reigning as a king, at the foundation of his reality, there is a wisdom working. Wisdom has power for enthronement. And so if you will stand in the place of authority to advance God's agenda, you can't lack wisdom. That's why in this kingdom, in James 1:5, he said, if any man lacks wisdom, it's not something he should take for granted. He should ask of God, that giveth liberally and upbraideth not, and it shall be given to him. So you can't afford to lack wisdom in this kingdom. We reign by wisdom. When wisdom begins to work in you, you become indispensable. You study the book of Daniel. In Daniel chapter 5, we saw that the king somehow lost touch with Daniel. It looked as if they didn't want him anymore, until suddenly a hand wrote on the wall, mene, mene, teke ofasin. All of the wise men couldn't interpret it. They had no choice but to invoke the wise man called Daniel. And you know, this is the excellency of wisdom. You don't have to lobby for position. When you have it, it is clear that if you are not there, things will go wrong. And when Daniel showed up, he came from the cave. And when he came, he didn't even act politely. He said, you, the Lord exalted you, gave you a kingdom that spans from one end of the earth to another. You now think you are wise. You are now worshiping the God of I. Only a wise man can talk like that, because you can't touch him. If you touch him, the kingdom is in jeopardy. You worship the God of iron, the God of stone. This is why this hand has come. And this is what the hand means. Mene, mene. They couldn't even read it, because where the hand came from is another civilization superior to the one they had. But a wise man knew how to journey from time to eternity. A wise man knew how to cross the veil of mortality to immortality. And he came with counsels that were rooted in the oracles of God. He said, mene, mene, teke ofasin. He said, you have been judged. You have been weighed in the balance. Imagine if we have such men in the body of Christ. Presidents will tremble, because when we visit, they will know that there's crisis. You know, it's so sad that in darkness they are able to maintain some of these things. Do you think if a sorcerer walks to the king's palace, they won't take him serious? You are the only one that comes as a pastor and they think you are coming to beg for money. No herbalist goes there and you intimidate him that he's coming to beg for money. You know, if he came, he brought a message from a spirit. Meanwhile, all those spirits are servants. We worship the Ancient of Days. We worship the I am that I am. We worship the creator of the ends of the earth. Every other spirit is subordinate to our God. Yet our representation is mundane. No wonder I say I've seen an abomination on the face of the earth. He said beggars are riding on horses while princes are trekking. In the days of the fathers, if a prophet walks to a king, the king knows that he's either blessed or he's in trouble. Because they come with the verdicts of the spirit. And they had the reputation to always be right. Because they function by an authority called wisdom. Our parliament is crying for wise men. Our nations are crying for wise men. Our civilization is crying for wise men. Men who can look at the crisis of society, diagnose it, and give prescriptions that will change things. Christianity is not just about singing in church. It's about raising wise men, sending them into society to shape society until God can be seen in our territories. But it will take the weapon of wisdom for that to happen. Where are the wise men? Egypt was about to crash, and suddenly the butler remembered that there's a wise man in prison. He didn't come out of the prison because they liked him. He came out of the prison because he has a commodity that you can't do without. And when the guy came, does it not shock you that they didn't need to read? He came, he looked at the king. He said, this is the dream that you have had. There will be 7 years of abundance. But be careful. After that 7 years of abundance, there will be 7 years of famine. Now, if you will be saved, you have to store 1/5 of everything you produce in the first 7 years. Otherwise, your nation will crash. And the king looked at him. He said, inasmuch as God has revealed this thing to you, he said, there's no one in your class. He said, therefore, take over. According to thy word shall the nation be ruled. We don't beg for position in this kingdom. We rise by wisdom. But we have reduced Christianity to a religious movement. This is why there is a demand for legislators. Men that can look into the spirit and tell you the mind of God, the position of God. And if you doubt them, you will see the consequence. Legislators are wise men. I told you the second weapon of legislators is influence. So one way or the other, you must hear them. You know, when I look at what's happening in the world and I compare with what's happening in church, I'm wondering, it takes me back to what Jesus said. He said the children of this world are in their generation wiser than the children of the kingdom. We think influence is carnality. We think influence is ambition. That's because we are myopic. The Bible said if you have what to eat, what to wear, and where to lay your head, it should be enough for you. So when we are talking influence, it's not about personal issue. It's about kingdom advancement. The church needs to have men that can speak to presidents, and policies will be written to favor the church. This is what the sons of the bondwoman are doing every day. They understand the game of influence. So in the Middle East, you go today, both religion and government and governance is one. Because they know that you can't advocate governance without the influence of their God. So pick any Middle Eastern nation, you can paint it with the culture of the people. It's rapidly there because they know they can't separate power from the worship of their God, and they insist on it. If they do it only in their country, that won't be a problem. But when they come to your own country, they force it on you. That's the level of audacity they have. And they know how to collaborate to make sure this agenda permeates different territory. They can use the guise of violence and then claim that the refugees are looking for asylum. What asylum are you looking for? They are not looking for any asylum. It's a strategic system of repopulating territories with those who carry their belief system. And today there are over 17 million of them in the UK alone. And they are not just coming to look for a house. When they come to a territory, they make sure they live together because they understand how the system works. It's a system, a game of influence. So when you come to a place and you demand for the name of a street to be changed, they do a referendum. And when the people in that street agree, they change it. If they say a mosque should be built, they do a referendum. Meanwhile, before they demanded for it, they already made sure that they are living there in their number because they know it's a game of influence. So those who have money can buy houses and put 10 people there. They need the number because it's influence. And when you come, before you know what's happening, after 5 years, they want to be mayors.